Hey guys, it's Fire Princess, and we're back with part 7 of Seduce Me. Okay, so a little recap, and we're just gonna jump right into this. No explanations, nothing like that. Malix died. That's pretty much it. And apparently James doesn't look normal. Whatever that means in this game. Because, incubi. So yeah, let's go. I'm not sure how else to explain what's going on except for that. Okay. Soon enough, the cries and wisps of magic stopped, leaving the air as silent as it could be. However, Damien didn't remove his hands.
Jeez, James. Haven't seen you use that trick since the intruder in Demon Castle. But you're losing your touch. You even lost your glamour spell. It couldn't have been helped.
Glamour spell? What did he mean? Why did James sound so different? Why was this being hidden from me?
It's a spell that makes us look human.
I froze. Look human? They didn't look like humans after all? What did they look like?
Like demons.
Oh, he sounds so hurt when he says that. Oh my god. Poor baby child. As if Matthew knew what Damien was talking about, Matthew spoke up, followed by the sound of a cork popping out of a bottle.
Well, not for much longer. Here.
Thank you, Matthew.
I could hear the small clinking of glass being passed before hearing James guzzle down a liquid of some sort. The stiff feel of the air around me gently began to warm back up, instigating that everything had returned to normal. Finally, Damien moved his hands from my eyes, allowing me to see around me once again. The devils, including Iris, had fled. Malix was nowhere to be found. The boys, however, had gathered around me, all of them including James, looking like nothing had happened. What just... I tried to speak, but everything zipped around in my head at the whole event, and I felt like speaking wasn't possible.
Let's just get you home, miss. There's nothing more to see here.
I could only nod. What had happened boggled my mind to the point of disbelief. I was second-guessing everything, lost in the sea of what and how and when. As we walked out of the warehouse, I looked to James for some form of sign that I wasn't dreaming. James kept his eyes forward, unable to look at me. It was over. Malix was gone, the boys were finally safe. A wave of relief ran through my body at the thought of never having to deal with that group again. At the same time, a ping of realization hit the back of my mind. The boys were only going to stay until after Malix was defeated. That was our deal. As we approached home, I could feel something heavy weigh down my heart. It was late, but the boys led me inside and turned on the lights in the lobby.
Finally, we can relax.
It will be good to have some rest without devils breathing down our necks.
Just tired. Can I hit the hay early?
I think some sleep would be good for all of us.
I looked to Damien, knowing he could read my mind, and frowned. I didn't want him to know about my thoughts on the situation. Yeah, bed sounds good. I wanted to just end tonight. Too much had happened, and I felt dizzy just trying to figure it out. However, Damien spoke up, stopping all of us from moving.
Should we be gone in the morning?
No. The air became still with tension. The realization of the situation hit the boys like a wave, forcing them to turn to me in curiosity. They had remembered their deal, and were now waiting for me to decide their fate. I don't want to decide! I gulped, face to face with the reality of the situation. The boys were leaving it up to me. It looked like they were willing to accept whatever I had demanded. It was only fair, though, after all that had happened. I looked to James, feeling my heart flutter in my chest. I didn't want him to leave, but would he ask to stay? I hoped that he would say no and ask me to stay longer. As if he knew what I wanted, James moved and smiled at me, taking my hand and bringing it to his lips for a kiss. He moved it away, smiled to me, and spoke.
Miss, if I may be so forward. Despite the short time we've stayed here, I've thoroughly enjoyed my time here. That being said, would you allow us to stay here?
My heart skipped while a large red blush ran across my cheeks. The boys stared at James wide-eyed, but didn't dare to speak out. James stepped back to give me space, returning to where he was. I moved my gaze across each boy, trying to make a decision. If they left in the morning, I would never see them again and my life would return to normal. If I decided to let them go, that would have been for the best. No goodbye, no delays. But did I want to? They had done so much for me in just a small amount of time. Oh God. Staying. They're gonna stay. I don't care what anyone says. They're staying. I wanted them to stay. I wanted him to stay. I merely smiled, staring at the man I'd come to have feelings for before speaking out at last. I would love it if you all could stay. The boys cheered tiredly, but nonetheless enthusiastically. I giggled at the sight. It was cute to see everyone so excited despite the tiredness that ran equally through our bodies. Today was a rough day. My home is your home, as long as you can still help with chores. The boys nodded in unison, agreeing to the terms I had set for them. Despite the good situation, I felt myself slowly slipping into unconsciousness. Okay, first off, I'd like to point out that the only one who has a really weird-ass smile on his face is Matthew. Like, everyone else's smile looks normal, and then there's just Matthew. However, James quickly clapped his hands together, getting everyone's attention and waking me up, making sure I didn't pass out on the floor. Good job, James.
Everyone. We're all very tired, so let's head to bed, shall we?
Oh, yeah, sleep is actually a thing. Right.
We've had a very long day, but it will be good to just relax tonight and tomorrow.
Sleep sounds really good right now. Yeah, man.
I watched a happy smile grow onto James's lips. He shared my excitement knowing that we would be together longer. Who knew how long we would stay together? All I cared about was that I would be with him. The others quickly left to finally rest, leaving me and James alone at last. My heart fluttered a bit as James walked close to me, gently wrapping his arms around my form. I placed my hands on his shoulders, leaning close.
You're an absolutely wonderful woman. I'm so happy that you let us stay here.
Well, why wouldn't I? I'm happy too, James. I stared up into his eyes, getting lost in them. I didn't know if it was the tiredness or my growing attachment to him, but I felt myself lean into James's body, and invited me to stay a while, making me forget that my bed was also calling for me.
Listen, about what happened at the warehouse.
No, it's fine. You did what you had to do. I understand. I had accepted everything while in James's warmth. He was real, and he was someone I didn't want to be without, even if that meant nodding against my curiosity. Besides, I was too tired to explore that memory further. James nodded before kissing my forehead sweetly. Aww, that's so cute.
Now, let's get you to bed.
Yes. I nodded before James gently lifted me into his arms like a bride and carried me to my room. I didn't want to leave his arm, leaning my head against James' chest. But eventually I was slowly lowered to my bed and covered with my bed covers. I was still in my school clothes, but I was too tired to strip to care. I looked to James, fighting a yawn from escaping me as he gently ran a hand over my hair.
Have sweet dreams. I'll prepare breakfast again for you in the morning.
Yes! I nodded with a tired smile before watching him slowly stand and leave my room, closing the door. A wave of happiness washed over me as I laid in bed. I made a good choice. Sure, it would be hard, but I could tell that I would be able to manage it. Help run the house, and being with a man who I was slowly starting to fall for would be worth it. I slowly felt my exhaustion take over. I let sleep consume me as I drifted into the darkness in my mind. Everything was peaceful. I was happy. Why do I feel like this is not going to last long? Oh God, of course.
You are an interesting creature.
Michaela Laws, everyone. I opened my eyes to see a woman staring down at me with a very sly smirk on her face. I opened my mouth to scream in fright, but a hand quickly covered my mouth.
No screaming now. Too early, silly girl.
What the This position, though, is a little funky for me. I could only stare up at the woman above me. I still felt weak, not having the strength to move or fight her off. What was going on, and why was she here?
Why do the boys like you? You're unique, yes, but that can't be all that you have going for you.
Yeah, it is. I'm pretty cool. Rage began to consume my core again. This woman, whoever she was making me mad. She must have known if she let another smirk grow on her face.
Ooh, you're feisty. That could be why.
Probably. I'm pretty nice. Before I could bite her hand in anger, she removed her hand from my lips, standing up and staring down at me from her place next to my bed. I quickly sat up and glared daggers at the intruder. She was very beautiful, but I felt more anger than amazement. Who the hell are you, and why are you in my room? The woman began to laugh, making the rage inside me increase. I wanted to punch her, but I waited for her answer. No, punch her.
How silly of me. I forgot that we demons are not well known of in your world. You can call me Diana, little demon.
Nay. Diana? Demon? You're a demon?
I am, but I'm much more than just an average demon.
What do you mean?
Silly girl. I'm a succubus.
I stared at Diana in shock. A succubus? First incubi, now a succubus? Great, now I had met both genders of sex demons. Diana crossed her arms under her bosom and looked at my body.
Well, you are pretty, but you seem very reckless. Too reckless.
Okay, I wanted to mention real quick, please excuse the, name change of the character. I had completely forgot that I had kept the original name of the character at the beginning, which was Mika, whatever that was. And I just changed it to a name that I normally use for any, romance games that I use, which is Cora. So please excuse that. Yeah. I moved out and stood from the bed, still glaring at Diana. Why are you here?
Oh, I just wanted to see who my competition was.
Competition?
For the boys, of course. They don't belong here, and yet here they remain. I want to know why, and remedy this little issue.
This girl was seriously pissing me off. Issue? What issue? They want to stay here, so they can.
Silly, uneducated human. You don't understand the important roles these boys play in the abyssal planes. You keeping them here is practically imprisonment.
You have about 10 seconds to leave.
Is that a threat? How cute. What are you going to do? Kill me?
I might. I don't like you. And if I do?
You barely have the strength to stand, little human. I can rip the rest of your energy out and knock you into a coma. You'll never be able to wake up again.
Touch me and all.
Enjoy every minute of it.
I felt my body freeze up and heat up to almost a painful haze. My mind began to feel dizzy as Diana stepped to me and caressed my cheek.
Now, you're going to listen to everything I say without any questions. Got it?
Nope. I nodded.
Good. I plan to bring the boys back to the abyssal planes. Why? So that I can take my place as queen of their realm. They have no reason to be here in this silly little world, so I'm going to make sure they return home. Okay, Pumpkin?
No. I nodded but growled. My rage couldn't be concealed despite the hold I was under. You evil bitch.
Call me evil all you want, dearie. I'm not evil. You're just in my way.
I felt Diana lean into my ear and whisper, making me unconsciously shiver in both pleasure and annoyance.
Now, be a good little human and go to bed. I'll make sure they're gone before you get home tomorrow from school. So make sure to say goodbye in the morning.
I felt my body move on its own to lay in bed and cover itself with my bed sheets. I glared at Diana the entire way down. Diana laughed at my futility. I'll get you.
Oh, please do.
All of a sudden, her voice deepened and became cold and demonic, sending a violent, scared shiver down my spine. Her red eyes practically illuminated in the darkness of my room as she glared at me.
Give me a reason to make your life a living hell.
I gritted my teeth, trying to fight back against the hold on me. She couldn't have been that tough. She needed energy to survive, right? I was sure she couldn't have had enough to hold me down forever. Diana then laughed and returned to normal.
Oh, and make sure you don't tell the boys I was here. I want my visit to be a surprise.
I want you to go away. I felt the hold on me disappear, allowing me to sit up and practically growl at Diana in rage. What's stopping me?
And you must not care about your friends and family as much as you care for the boys.
I stopped and stared. What did she mean by that? Was that a threat to my family? Diana smirked at me, knowing the confusion behind my eyes.
Let's just say that if you tell the boys about me, I'll make sure that no one will care for you, and you'll be all alone in this little house until the day you die.
I could feel fear creeping into me. Alone? How could she do that? The word demon reverberated in my head, reminding me that I was facing off against something supernatural. A human with a shield versus a devil with one thing. A human on her own versus a demon was another.
Have a good night.
And with that, Diana sank into the floor through a magic purple pentagram, which disappeared as her head vanished into the floor. I couldn't believe it. I had one problem and now I had another. Instead of a crazy psycho devil who wanted to kill me and the boys, I had a succubus wanting to ruin my life and take the boys away. Could my life get any worse? No, I wasn't going to let her win. She's not as powerful as she looks. I know it. I had to mentally confirm it. She wasn't going to win. The boys wanted to stay with me. I let her decide before closing my eyes, affirming my plan of action. No matter what she was going to do, I was going to beat her. Eventually, the morning arrived and the sun screamed at me to get up. Surprisingly, I woke up before my alarm clock once again, which was nice. I stretched out and quickly got dressed, getting ready for school. She expects me to say goodbye to the boys. I will say good morning and will see them when I come back. No way am I going to say goodbye. I scooped up my bag and headed downstairs to the dining room, seeing the boys already eating a delicious section of food. The smell made my stomach growl wildly at the sight of food drew me to walk further into the room.
Good morning, miss. Did you sleep well?
Before I could lie, hiding the incident in the back of my mind, Damien furrowed his eyebrows and stopped eating.
She's here.
The boys looked at Damien in confusion while I cursed his ability to silently in my mouth.
Damien, what's up with you? Of course she's here. She kinda owns the house.
Damien looked to me, wanting me to explain for him. However, the threats that Diana gave me last night warned me to keep my mouth shut. I shook my head at Damien, not wanting to talk about it. Damien sighed and looked to James. James tilted his head and furrowed his brows at Damien before looking to me.
Does anyone else live in this house?
No, just us.
Then who is Diana?
God damn it, Damien! My heart stopped. Damien was able to read my mind. I couldn't help but glare at him, but he continued to press a hard, tell-the-truth gaze at me. I sighed. Damien was going to press the issue, so I had no choice but to speak. A girl named Diana came by last night.
Diana? Is she important?
Did she try to hurt you?
She's a succubus. I'm so sorry. That single word made the boys stop and stare at me. I looked to each boy, unsure of what was going through their minds. Should I have avoided it?
So, she's come to try and bring us back.
She must really be desperate.
Do they know her?
Well, what should we do now?
Nothing. She'll give up eventually.
Will she?
Oh, sorry. Skipped. The boys continued to look at me as if I knew the answer to that question. Damn it, Damien. She said that if I told you, she'd make my life a living hell. She can't possibly do that, right? She's not a devil.
No, she isn't. However, she is a very powerful demon.
She's a master of mind manipulation and has been trained in illusion. Unlike other demons who use strength to get power, she uses her charisma.
She has the power to make armies bow to her and obey her every whim. That's why she's so obsessed with us.
What? What do you mean?
Well, she sort of has family ties to us. She was promised to marry one of us in exchange for more power.
She's just some whacked up hussy who doesn't know how to close her legs. She's not a real threat.
Oh, really? I feel insulted.
God damn it, she's back. The boys and I looked around the room, wondering where the voice came from. I felt a cold sweat run down the back of my neck in fear, remembering what kind of power she had. At last we saw Diana by the entrance of the kitchen, juggling a single red apple in her hands as she leaned against the archway. The boys quickly surrounded me, glaring at the intruder.
So, you took up a human name as well.
Beautiful name, isn't it? Well, for a human name, anyway.
What the hell do you want?
To bring you back, of course. However, you weren't supposed to know that I was coming. I completely forgot about that little mind-reading ability. My mistake.
Diana pushed off the archway and walked towards us, making the boys step closer to me in a protective circle. Diana laughed.
My. What has the world come to? A group of demons protecting a human girl? I'll tell you right now, she's not that pretty. And from what I can tell, she's still a virgin.
My face grew red in complete anger and embarrassment. How dare she? Diana chuckled and smirked at me, knowing that I wanted to hit her but had control of myself.
Such control you have, human. You know your place very well.
I didn't control the growl that escaped my throat, however.
Well, will you all change your minds? I assure you, it's for the greater good.
I expected the boys to say no, but what I heard was complete silence. None of the boys replied to Diana, which made me both nervous and fearful as to why. Diana leaned her head back a bit, surprised for a different reason.
No. Well, I see.
Was silence truly giving them saying no to her? I looked around at the boys and saw the disobedience in their eyes, giving me my answer. I felt my heart flutter, especially when my eyes landed on James. He kept close to me, glaring daggers into Diana. I could feel that he was completely adamant in his choice to stay. I didn't know what, but I was incredibly happy to know he wanted to stay. Diana sighed and pressed a finger into her temple, rubbing it gently.
Either all of you are playing a very convincing hard-to-get game, or you all must be out of your minds.
Diana then looked to me, locking her gaze with mine as if to read me. I could tell she wanted me to do something, but the boys would stop her, so the stare was her only available action. After a small moment of silence, Diana licked her lips before breaking the gaze battle and smiling at the boys around me.
Very well. I guess I'll take my leave now.
What? Her leave? Was she serious? The boys around me straightened up and grew confused looks on their faces as Diana stepped back and away from us with the small bow, flaunting her cleavage. Without another word, a deep purple pentagram appeared under her feet, and Diana's body slowly sank into the floor. As her head vanished into the floor, the pentagram vanished. At once, the boys relaxed and slowly began to return to their spots at the table, each in deep thought.
She'll be back, but she won't kill us. She needs us alive.
Whatever. We'll just keep saying no. She can't force us to come back.
She can't do anything but annoy us. Eventually, she'll give up.
That's the hope, anyway.
Hopefully. James walked over to me and gently caressed my cheek, looking at me with his comforting smile.
There's no need to worry. I promise she won't hurt you.
I nodded, feeling that he was telling the truth, or at least a hopeful and comforting thought. James kissed my forehead, however, making me blush and forget what I was thinking about. A sound of collective chuckles and playful snickers whispered through the air, making me blush even more, but the sudden growl that erupted from the man above me made the laughter stop. Oh boy, James did not like that. I didn't see James' face, but I could tell that he was glaring at his brothers with his lips on my head. As he and I pulled away from each other as the sound of Naomi's car appeared, I quickly ate my food, waved to the boys, and left, confident that nothing was going to happen. Never, ever say that nothing will happen before the day is over. I avoided talking about the ride back home yesterday, saying that the ride was a one-time thing. I'll be riding with you guys from now on to and from school. The girls seemed very happy. We entered the school quickly, gathered our things from our lockers, and headed to class. There were no events, to our surprise. History wasn't exactly fun, but our teacher was great. At least he would have been great if he had been in class that day. Naomi and Suzu took their seats around me, Suzu in front of me, Naomi beside me. Before the class bell rang, the class was greeted by the dean.
Students, you'll be having a substitute for class today. Everyone meet
Miss Diana.
My heart stopped. At the door with the dean was Diana, looking over the students and smirking as her eyes landed on me. She strutted to the teacher's desk, ignoring our welcome in the whispers from the other students, before sitting on the wood and crossing her legs.
Thank you, Dean. You can go now.
With a wave of Diana's hand, the dean left the classroom, closed the door, and left the area. Diana smiled at us, making my stomach turn. What was she going to do?
So, history. History. Such a silly thing, isn't it? I mean, what do we care about the past? We're in the present.
The rest of the class, including Naomi and Suzu, hesitantly nodded in agreement, unsure about this new teacher, but willing to listen to more of what she had to say.
The present is so full of wonderful things. While the labors of the past are the reason we have many things, it is our chance and privilege to utilize what has been given to us.
Her charm was almost infectious. The class was practically starting to eat out of her hand. I looked around to see classmates grinning and agreeing with Diana. I pressed my lips together as I listened further. I had no choice.
What's even funnier about human beings is that some of the bits of history we hear is either made up or completely biased to one side. It's like a story you read as a child. You hear of the princess and prince, and they live happily ever after. But what about the family she left behind? What of her friends?
The students listened and agreed intently to her words. I could tell, however, that those words were targeted at me.
The original story of the Little Mermaid, a perfect example of biased opinion. Here we have a girl who thinks she can be with this prince, but this prince has to marry a princess. What would happen if the mermaid had her way? What makes the mermaid so important that the princess has to suffer the consequences?
Oh God. Just keep quiet. I kept my mouth shut. There was no way I was going to let her get to me. Despite her being the teacher, I was going to ignore her. There was no telling what she would do if I talked back. Diana looked to me, expecting me to speak, but I merely stared at her. A smirk graced her face, a glare graced mine. I didn't need to fight to win.
It's still something to think about, however, as we think of this story. It's so easy to believe that the mermaid was the heroine. But what of the poor princess? Why should the princess suffer the antics of a mermaid? The princess didn't do anything wrong to her.
More nonsense. I knew this was all sentimental. This was a subliminal message to me to make me pity her. My anger didn't allow any leeway to feel pity for her. How long was she planning to drag this out? She wasn't a real teacher. Diana continued to rave about the injustice the princess had to suffer through, while the mermaid was at the prince's sight. To Diana, that it was injustice. To me, it was a fairy tale. The boys chose me. He chose me. She wasn't going to convince them otherwise, and I wasn't going to let her. Diana stretched her arms up, making an obvious sexual noise that made some of the boys in the class shift a little in their seats. I rolled my eyes.
Well, that's enough about fairy tales. After all, the Little Mermaid was fated to lose her prince in the original story anyway. It was for the better, though. The kingdoms, I'm sure, flourished, and the prince and princess lived happily ever after.
Not a word. Don't speak. I could tell that she was trying to pull me to speak more and more. I knew she was wrong, but I wasn't intimidated enough to fall for her words and speak up. I decided to watch and observe for the remainder of the class. Her class had become a lecture, and no one spoke as she spouted nonsense. Diana then stopped talking and looked at the clock on the wall, reading it quickly. The class had barely begun. Why was she looking at the time? Diana then leaned against the blackboard and smiled to us. I became worried.
You know what? School isn't important. Everyone, go ahead and head home. Take the week off.
The students began to chat happily or in confusion at the situation. Many thought it was a dream come true. Others knew better. Before anyone could protest, however, Diana pressed the fingers to her lips and counted down with her fingers in the air. 3, 2, 1. The speakers of the classroom gently awoke, giving us an announcement that we would never believe.
Attention students. Due to an emergency faculty meeting, we will be closing school for the remainder of the day and this entire week. Please leave the school quickly and quietly and have a good rest of the week.
She used her powers on them. Damn it! I felt the need to stop her, but how could I stop a demon in the middle of a public area? Okay, you guys, so that's what we're gonna leave off here. Total cliffhanger. Okay, this Diana chick is a bitch. That's all I can say about that. She is a royal witch. Okay. So, this will be uploaded here shortly. So listen and pay attention. I meant to mention at the beginning of the video, but I had forgotten to save my original data, and it didn't save. Well, I guess I did save it, it just didn't save correctly, so I had to completely start a brand new game and play through the entire game in order to get to the part where we started off this episode. So that's why my character has a different name instead of the one that we decided to go with, as I mentioned previously. So I will also be uploading another game along with this one, so please be sure to check it out when it's uploaded, and have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye!